I've made the extremely difficult decision today that we will suspend the active search tonight at sundown. In my 25-year career, I have never seen a more comprehensive or a larger search effort for the area and for the time duration that we ran. We've had some incredible outpouring of support from the public.
You know, I know we've asked a lot out of the community, and I'll ask one more thing: keep those families in your thoughts and prayers, because they are going through an extremely tough time right now.
A difficult time, difficult decisions, a difficult day in the search for two men lost at sea. Fellow firefighters, friends, and even strangers say they are not giving up on Brian McCluney or Justin Walker.
However, the official search led by the U.S. Coast Guard ends just 2 hours from now when the sun sets tonight at 8:01. Good evening, I'm Jeannie Blaylock.
And I'm Anthony Austin. It was an extremely difficult decision, as you just heard from the U.S. Coast Guard. Brian and Justin went missing at sea Friday, and since then, the U.S. Coast Guard, along with JFRD, the U.S. Navy, Air Force, the community, plus many more, have been working around the clock to help find Brian and Justin. And many will continue that effort, even though the Coast Guard and JFRD will not.
And we have live team coverage for you tonight from up and down the East Coast, where searchers will still look for Brian and Justin on their own. We begin with On Your Side's Jessica Clark, who joins us live from the South Bank in Jacksonville. Jess?
Well, good evening. It was right in this location where there was a press conference at noon to inform us that, yes, indeed, the search for these two missing firefighters would be suspended come sundown this evening. And it was a decision made by the Coast Guard as well as by the Jacksonville Fire Rescue Department. The search area is expansive. We're talking about a search that started from the coastline of Central Florida and goes all the way up to the waters off of New England. And again, this search is for Jacksonville firefighter Brian McCluney and his friend Justin Walker, a firefighter from Virginia. Now, with today's search, nearly 110,000 square miles has been covered since Friday. That's roughly the size of Nevada, which is the 6th largest state in the nation. Hundreds of official and unofficial, volunteer, if you will, searchers went out onto the waters, into the sky to look for these two firefighters. They've been doing this since Friday. Today, that hard news about suspending the search, and the Coast Guard captain says really mathematically he can no longer pinpoint a specific area to search.
And by putting those assets, the judgment calls that put those assets back on patrol and back in their normal areas, we give ourselves an equal, if not better, opportunity of maybe learning something more.
I just left the families right before we came out here, and their heart broke. And I can't say that I feel any different right now.
The fire chief getting a little choked up right there. That was probably the most emotional and hardest part of that press conference today, for the fire chief to say this is so hard, not just for the families, but for those who are making the decision as well. The captain says the Coast Guard this search was one of the most extensive he has ever participated in his 25-year career. So as we mentioned, people weren't just on boats looking for these two men. They were up in the skies. And today, our Troy Kless was in a plane with Customs Border Patrol to see what was taking place. We join him now. Troy?
Thanks, Jess. We were with U.S. Customs and Border Protection in one of their P-3 planes, which is primarily used for drug trafficking and tracking drug traffickers. But obviously, the task at hand today, a lot more difficult and a lot more high stakes, if you will. Again, that search for Brian McCluney and Justin Walker. That group of men were also joined by some JFRD firefighters, including one of Brian McCluney's best friends. We did talk to him today, and he said that also he was actually supposed to be on that boat trip with the two men on Friday, but he got sidetracked by childcare and did not make it. But he did say that since that call came out on Saturday, he has been out on boats searching, but it was his first time up in a plane today, again, with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. And again, it was very difficult for him, but still was holding on to hope that they would be able to find something today. We were searching in an area off of the North Carolina coast at about an 80-mile by 80-mile grid that we were searching for several hours today, and just in the last 30 minutes we had landed back here at Cecil Field. So obviously a very difficult decision, like you said, has already been made, and news is going to continue to spread of that. So obviously a very difficult time for these firefighters and for everyone who has been involved in this search as of right now. So we're going to continue to bring you some of what the firefighters were going through. Again, Brian McCluney's best friend out there in the sky searching for him today. Again, still with hope that they could find them. So again, we are here at Cecil Field reporting live tonight. I'm Troy Kless, First Coast News, on your side.
Oh, wow, Troy, what a heartbreaking story about Brian's friend being up there in the plane today. Okay, so some of the search has shifted to Savannah, and our Robert Bradfield has spent time in Savannah today checking out the search efforts there. We join him now.
Many people here in Savannah say they are Jacksonville strong, hoping and rooting that Brian and Justin would be found. I spoke with a survivalist, a person who trains in these scenarios and emergencies, and he tells me even though it's been about 6 days since they were last seen, miracles do happen.
Anything is possible, and I'm really rooting for these guys.
Joel Graves knows danger. He's a combat Navy veteran and teaches survival skills in Jacksonville.
A lot of this knowledge is getting lost, and what used to be common sense isn't anymore.
He says there are some must-haves for your boat in case you get lost at sea, including a water suit to fight hypothermia and an emergency beacon which sends a distress signal.
And that's something that's very, very smart to have for somebody that wants to be prepared and is spending a lot of time going offshore fishing and things like that, because literally anything could happen.
It's unknown what kind of gear the men had with them, but Graves says it's better to overpack than not having the right or enough equipment. In Savannah, Robert Bradfield, First Coast News, on your side.
All right, Robert, thank you for that. And so let's now shift our attention to Charleston, because yet again, this was an area where some of the searching was taking place. And our Kaylee Tracy joins us now live from Charleston. And Kaylee, we're hearing that some people plan to still search over the weekend.
Yeah, that's right, Jessica. Right here this morning, about a dozen boats and 6 to 8 volunteers on each boat took off around 7 a.m. and they're still out searching the waters. Some of them say even though the volunteer coordinated efforts will end today, they plan to continue looking for these firefighters out there. And Lieutenant Angus McBride with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, they are helping out as well. He says they started their efforts searching yesterday with several boats and their aircraft, and they will continue through the weekend, weather permitting. They used several of their boats, as I was saying, and their agency's aircraft, and plan to use those same resources over the next few days. Lieutenant McBride says they'll send crews as far north as the North Carolina border and as far south as Savannah.
We, of course, would treat this no different than if they were commercial fishermen or recreational fishermen from any area. It doesn't concern us that they're not from South Carolina. It doesn't concern us that they don't wear the same uniform. What concerns us is that there could be an opportunity for us to develop some sort of evidence to bring closure.
And just like he just said, these boaters out here today on the water want to give the family and people hope, potentially looking for a clue out there. And they said, again, they will continue to search some of those volunteers. Some of them are fellow firefighters here in South Carolina, so they said this has an even deeper meaning for them. Reporting in Charleston, Kaylee Tracy, First Coast News, on your side.
All right, Kaylee, thank you for that. And one note here, the Coast Guard says that even though they don't have an official search going on past sundown, that they still will be looking for these two firefighters in their regular routines. And remember, the coverage continues online for this story. Our website is firstcoastnews.com. You can always check out the latest there. We also have a live blog underway, and that gives you the updates as they come into us. As soon as we learn something, we'll put that on that blog. Again, it's firstcoastnews.com. Live on the South Bank, Jessica Clark, First Coast News, back to you.